All right. Looks like we're live. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you may be. So it's Sunday, February 13th, 2022. Let me know if you can hear me well. Rumpelstiltskin is here. He's in Tokyo, so it's Monday for him. Billy and I went out for a walk a couple of hours ago. It was pouring, so we got wet. But Billy doesn't care about rain. He's impervious to it. So nice to see so many of you here already. We've got Grow Mechanic, Pablo's here. Hi, Pablo. Echo's here. Gavster Legrand, Ben Gray, Richard Spiller, Alan Zibelman. Good audio, thank you. Joker Alpha. Jillian B, Wayne Burbrink, Teague Materi, Belly Dance, Arabia. Yeah, nice to see all of you. We've had a good day here. I mean, I played golf early this morning. And after that, we went out for lunch with a couple of friends, my wife and I. She actually went before me because I was playing golf, but I made it in time. And then we went out for a drink to a typical English pub. So we've had a nice afternoon. The title of the live stream is "Work Hard to Cover Up Financial and Economic Crisis?" ? So yeah, it was Gerald Celente who said many years ago that when everything else fails, they take us to war. And hopefully that won't happen. But we're going to talk about that in about 8 minutes. We're going to go over that. I'm early as usual, so I'll just say hello to everyone and answer some questions. You know, maybe we should focus on your questions today. Steve Wojtas, dogs don't care about the weather. No, he doesn't. Some do, but Billy is a good boy. Scoobyism 3, he's in snowy New York. Olivier Leroy is in Paris. Mark Anthony is in Johannesburg, South Africa. Country Sisters in Texas. Spanish John, I guess he's in Spain. Pascal, hi Pascal Hoods or Hoods. Golden Silver's here. Sarge 27271. Ashley Taylor. Sean Cavell, appreciate you. Listen to you first thing in the morning. Take care of your health. Stay healthy. Stay awesome. Yeah, no, I do. I stay healthy. Try to stay healthy as much as possible. I think that's really important. I'm not on any medication, so that's a good thing, in my opinion. Lord Humongous is here. He's a longtime supporter. Teague Materi, thank you for your super chat. Have you listened to Jeff Booth? If yes, what do you think of his ideas? I haven't listened to Jeff Booth, so I will have to listen to Jeff Booth. Haven't heard of him, to be honest. Brandon Baker says, drop the question mark. It's a statement. Yeah, I know. But, you know, that's sometimes you got to do things that I agree with you. And it seems like, well, we'll come to that in a minute about what's happening geopolitically and economically and financially. Stacker from New Zealand, warm greetings to you from Auckland. Well, we're doing well here. It's still Sunday evening, but we're doing well in the Monday morning in New Zealand. Joe Lahote says, hi, Billy. Tell Mara we love the channel. Bruno Silva from Portugal. Nice to see someone from Portugal. Michael Parziale says, you look well, neighbor. Thank you. Larry Dibble from Westfield, New York. Native American says, Russia is trouble is a total fabrication. I think so too. And it is dangerous. There's a lot of things challenging the establishment right now. The truckers in Canada, that's spreading. They don't want that to spread. They have a problem with the finances, i.e. inflation. They can't really raise rates that much. And yeah, prices are going through the roof. I notice it here in the UK. Yeah, people who think we're going to have a deflation, we might have a deflation in financial assets, but everything that we need to survive, and food, shelter, energy, all those things are going to keep rising. We've got Chris Christo from Cyprus. Great to see someone from Cyprus. Wilmar de Young. I guess that looks like you're from the Netherlands or Belgium, I would say. Over here says, Mara, sometimes you have to do things you just don't want to do. Lordy Munga says he's boycotting the Super Bowl. I don't even watch that much golf anymore. I'm really not too bothered about the Super Bowl, to be honest. I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch that. When we were at the pub today after lunch, people were watching the rugby. England was playing Italy in rugby. I think they thrashed Italy. Italy is not really known for their rugby prowess. They're better at football or soccer. So I'm not surprised. Thank you, Jeff Davis, for your super chat. Jeff Davis from Texas. Joker Alpha, I agree with you, inflate or die. But yeah, people are feeling the pinch with the inflation. Poseidon DeSoto, thank you for your super chat. Harvey Williams, he asks the question, is this, well, it's not a war yet, but if there is something, yeah, it is a definite excuse to print more money. It's another crisis, because I think they're losing traction with the crisis, the health crisis we've had for the last 2 years. So they have to find another one. Yeah, totally. That's what I think. Chris from, I think you'd pronounce that for Naka in Belgium, elevator mechanic, Southern California. Albert, $200 face value pre-64 for sale on Craigslist. $4,500. $200 face value for what? Not sure. Is that pre-64 silver? True Grit. No, I haven't heard of a truckers protest here in the UK, mainly because they're like scrapping all the controls, all the regulations. We're pretty much back to normal. Maybe that's why we don't have as many protests. Lord Humongous. BR Williams. Hi, BR Williams. So Bobson, Dugnut, Russia's moving on crypto legislation to acknowledge it as a viable currency. Do you think the US will try to compete by embracing Bitcoin mining? I don't think it means much. The fact that Russia is acknowledging that. Uh, here in the UK, you can use gold or silver, for example, to pay for things, and you can even declare that as a tax transaction as long as you translate or convert it to the local currency. Uh, I'm not too focused on cryptos. I have an exposure to cryptocurrencies, but I think gold and silver, they're the place to be, as well as commodities. We're going to continue to see inflation. And if they don't really, and I don't think they can, we're going to see very high inflation, if not hyperinflation. Stacker and Z New Zealand, massive protests in New Zealand, especially in Wellington, many people camping outside. Yeah, there are protests in France yesterday as well, in Paris. So there you go. Over here, Mary, would just an invasion of Ukraine without shooting war be a financial cause for concern and an excuse for the Fed? Yeah, I think they are going to use that as an excuse. And I watch a guy on YouTube. He's got 3.5 million subscribers. He's an English guy who travels throughout the old Soviet Union, like not just Russia, but all the other republics. His name is Bald and Bankrupt. And he was in the eastern part of the Ukraine in March last year, and they've been at war since 2014. So this is nothing new. And we hear that the president of the Ukraine, they're saying that there's nothing going on. It seems to be the US and the UK that are pushing for something. It's like they're poking the bear, the Russian bear. And I think even if there isn't a war, what they're doing now is gone beyond all kind of how can I say, international relations, peaceful international or reasonable relations with other countries. Don't forget, Russia, China, the US, the UK, and France are they are part of the they're permanent members of the UN Security Council, those 5 countries. And if you're trying to push countries like Russia and China around like that, I think it's really bad. So I think there's something going on there. And even if there isn't a kinetic war, I think the West has really had it, especially the US and the UK. And I've noticed that countries like Europe and Germany and France are trying to be more diplomatic with the Russians because they need to deal with them. And Germany, France, and the EU have a lot of, they do a lot of business with Russia and China as well. And I think China is definitely on Russia's side right now. So I think it's all about the finances. They need another crisis because they're desperate. I think last week when the CPI came out, I was on Twitter. I spent some time on Twitter because it's good to see what people are saying. And I said, expect a false flag maybe for people to take people's attention away from inflation and the Federal Reserve. So I think that's what's going on out there. So I'll stop talking right now and look at some of your questions. And just to let you know, I try to answer as many questions as possible. I'm on my own here and I try to read as many as possible. So if I don't answer your questions, not because I don't like you or anything. Over here, Mary, are you going to be looking to purchase precious metals this week, specifically gold? What I've done in the last 12, 18 months is stack quite a bit of silver. In terms of gold, I bought a little bit of gold, but I've also been buying mining stocks, and I've been buying commodity ETFs. I don't think I'll be buying any precious metals this coming week. I'm happy with what I got right now. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Mario Querido Caballo, please tell us your thoughts about a great worldwide cyber attack in order to impose digital money. Yeah, I mean, that's something that's out there. The World Economic Forum, the powers that be, they had a cyber polygon meeting, I think last summer. So they've put it into people's minds that there could be a cyber attack. They could blame it on Russia, of course, but I'm not sure if it would be to impose digital money, because we already use digital money most of the time. I think it would be more to do a bail-in and to have an excuse to stop raising rates, to actually bring back QE, and they could blame the Russians on it. So I think it's highly possible if we don't have a kinetic war. And it could be a false flag, of course. It might not even be the Russians. They could blame the Russians. Lily Robin, what will the Fed do tomorrow? I think they will play cards and talk about the Super Bowl commercials. They won't raise rates. Well, there were rumors that they were going to raise rates on Friday, and they didn't. They could raise rates tomorrow, but I think they're so behind the curve. By raising rates tomorrow, they would admit that they're doing something wrong. So either way, they're in trouble. Music lover forever. US CPI has been adjusted again to reduce food costs from the figures. Yeah, I saw that they adjusted it, even though it came out at 7.5. It probably was even higher if they hadn't adjusted it. They said they're changing the basket to reflect the spending patterns that changed during 2020 and the pandemic. Yeah, they will do everything they can to keep that number as low as possible, but it's all propaganda, I would say. You need to keep an eye on shadowstats.com. John Ramon Ginjon. Good evening, Mara. Thanks for your insights. What do you think about the euro? Is it the worst or best position related to the dollar, especially inside of war in Ukraine? Well, the dollar is still the major reserve currency. It's losing a lot of, not exposure, but a lot of countries are decreasing their dollar reserves. And I think with this Ukraine crisis, even if we don't get a war, people are going to trust the US less and less. They're going to try to move more and more away from the dollar. As I said yesterday, I made a video yesterday, all fiat currencies are trash, including the euro, but the euro could benefit a little from what's going on in Russia. Well, as it pertains to Russia and the Ukraine. But the other side of the coin is that we're seeing interest rates rise in Europe, bond yields, and that could be a problem. Like countries like Greece, Italy, their bond yields are rising a lot. And in 2011, 2012, the euro was hit hard because a lot of the Southern European countries almost went bust. So that's why I still favor gold and silver. So yeah, but the euro has picked up a little bit in the last few weeks. It came off the last 2 days last week, but in the end of the day, yeah, I would stick to gold and silver. Robert Gifford from Glasgow, nice to see you here. Hi, Connor Monnery, nice to see you. James Hafford, on Friday, I noticed that the market was in the red, but mining stocks were mostly all in the green. Do you think this trend will continue in the market? Yeah, I noticed that too. And I spoke a little bit about that in my video yesterday. It was very encouraging because we saw the general stock market get hammered Friday. And actually, the miners did very well. And so did gold and silver. So, and I spoke about it yesterday as well, that the GDX and GDXJ are up year to date, while all the NASDAQ, the S&P, and the Dow are all down in the year, and gold and silver are up about 3%. So I think that trend is going to continue. And yeah, there's been a lot of people who have been concerned with the miners in case there is a major correction in the stock market, but it looks like that they're detaching from it at the moment. Sarge 27271, what's happening to Deutsche Bank, a douche bank? They're still loaded with derivatives. All these major too big to fail banks have trillions in derivatives. It looks like it's coming out that Deutsche Bank was bailed out in 2019, 2020 by the Fed. And so were other banks like Goldman Sachs. They pumped trillions into these banks. So there you go. It's not just Deutsche Bank. It's all the major too big to fail banks. They're all zombie banks. Corey Donaldson, love your daily blogs. Always watch them all. Mario, I don't ever ask anything. Just listen. But if you do not mind, can I ask you a question, please? What do you think about Kinesis money? I have no opinion on Kinesis money because I've never used it and I'm not really interested in it. They have, from what I know, they have a complicated way and they pay interest on deposits of gold. And I just, I'm not, yeah, I don't know anything about it, so I couldn't tell you. Yeah, Kinesis money. HZJ79, thank you for your super chat. He's in Australia. He's saying good morning. Good morning. Yeah, I mean, Kinesis money. Yeah, can't say anything about it. Mr. B, hi, Mr. B. Nice to see you. Andy Tuesday says the cabal is going down. Hold your medals. Well, I hope so, Andy Tuesday. You know, I woke up to the fraudulent nature of our monetary system back in 2001 and 2 thereabouts. And at the time I was still working in this financial system, but I've known all along that it's not fit for purpose. And it's been, you know, it's been a long journey, and they've been able to keep this going for, well, over 50 years, really. If you go back to when Nixon closed the gold window, we've had what John Exter called a non-monetary system. Basically, all the currencies now, they are irredeemable in anything of value. The only thing that they backs these currencies are big governments, taxation, war, you know, and yeah, and it's gone too far. And we need to revert back to more to freedom, sound money, small government. Yeah, and it seems like we're far away from that, but I'm hopeful because this can't keep going for as long as it, you know, it can't, things can't keep go on forever, especially things that are not right and within the laws of nature, so to speak. Alex Skuru, any projection on the silver price? I made a video last week talking about the technical picture, like a monthly long-term picture, I could see silver break out. If we break out from the mid 20s and the 30 level, I would say we could see a quick move up to the mid 40s. Longer term, I think silver will go a lot higher though. But yeah, some people talk in the hundreds. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. My main concern is not the fiat price, but how much gold and silver what purchasing power they will have, and I think they'll have a lot more purchasing power going forward. Querido Kabbalah, why do most 1 ounce gold buffalo coins have a ragged edge? Yeah, I do have a few gold buffaloes. Yeah, and they're not very I agree with you. They're not, the quality isn't the greatest, I would say. Yeah. I don't know why. It's just quality. Quality goes down when there is inflation usually. Michael White, Harry Dent says metals will have in value and only government bonds are worth buying. What do you think? I think he's wrong because government bonds, you know, yeah, I think he's completely wrong. Because if bond yields keep rising, interest rates keep rising, the value of bonds will go down. And maybe, if the Fed does raise rates to 10 or 15%, he might be right. We could see long-term bonds do really well because they're going to kill inflation. Yeah, and gold might go down to 1,000, but then the Dow is going to be like at 10,000, and it's all relative. So, no, I don't agree with Harry Dent on that. He seems to think that the dollar, yeah, he doesn't. I don't know. He seems to think the dollar is like a king, even though the dollar is technically it should be gold and silver, and he doesn't realize that all the debt they created, 30 trillion national debt plus all the unfunded liabilities. I don't understand how he doesn't see that as a problem when you've got so much debt. And in the fiat currency system, the debt is the currency. So that's the way I view it. Alia Jones, could you do an episode on bimetallism? Yeah, I think bimetallism is a good way to go. Have both a gold and silver, bimetallic system. Unfortunately, you had the crime of 73. They took the US off the silver standard as well. And because the reason why I think bimetallism is good is because if you only have a gold standard, I think it hurts the general public because the general public usually, the masses, they're more, they hold more silver in a sound money system. So if you cut off the silver, I think you do a lot of damage to the system. Lily Robbins says Billy is worth his weight in silver and gold. I agree with you. Billy is he's a really good dog. I'm not saying this because he's my dog, but he's just really nice. Over here, I believe Michael Pinto is focused on gold, buying silver when the economy starts humming again. In my opinion, that may take several years, maybe even a decade. Everyone has a different opinion. I'm hanging on to my silver. I've been stacking since 2003. I think some years ago I had to sell some of my silver, but not all of it. But yeah, I'm hanging on to the silver. Lord Humongous says, haven't heard much from Michael Saylor, Mr. Bitcoin. No, we haven't, have we? Oh yeah, I got my Christine Lagarde cup. She's behind bars because she was convicted of a crime in France. I think it was 2017, but they didn't really make her serve 1 year in jail. She was still at the IMF, and then she became the president of the ECB. This is a NDECB mug, Fermé la BCE, which is in French, and then in German, the ECB Herunterfahren. So, and the ECB, and we got Madame Lagarde behind bars. Miles, thank you for your super chat. The Fed should be made to absolve all debt. Any other debt should be paid by politicians and their families until paid off. Outside of personal debt, no debt should be responsible for people. Well, the Fed already owns a lot of the national debt. I think it's something like 6 or 7 trillion. The problem with the debt, the national debt, is it backs the currency, and it backs and the government has a lot of, they've promised millions of people many things, like the pension, national pension, like the Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, that if you how can I say, if you write off the debt, it's going to be a disaster, because that is the currency, and a lot of people are going to probably starve to death because there won't be any money. I guess the easiest thing to do would be to reorganize everything. It's very complicated. We've gone so far into debt, not just in the US, but everywhere around the world, that not everywhere, but in the West, that it's a huge problem. It seems easy, oh, you just write off the debt, but don't forget that the economy functions, a lot of it, we depend on that debt. Just think of the debt on the other side of the debt. There's someone that invested in that debt. It's someone's asset as well. Benoit Guillou says Macron just decorated Christine Lagarde to the Ordre National du Mérite. Well, they do the same thing here, Benoit, in the UK. Whenever someone is incompetent or corrupt, they knight them. They make them, a knight of the British Empire, or they give them a title. It seems to be everywhere around the world. It's just sickening, really. It doesn't, it devalues all these awards, I would say, because she doesn't deserve it, in my opinion. John Flynn, thank you for your super chat. Finally seeing the inflation after all the printing of empty promise paper. Hyperinflation is like a nervous dog. Never know when it's going to bite. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Billy wouldn't do that, though. Billy is such a, I don't think he's never bitten anyone. But anyway, Echo, I read Erdogan wants the public's goal to support their Turkish currency. Yeah, I think he's going to have a tough time getting to convince the Turkish public to give their gold in for Turkish lira. Yeah, I don't think, I would say the Turkish people are probably not that silly, even though in South Korea, a lot of people handed in all their gold and jewelry. Back in 98, there was a Asian currency crisis. It was a huge crisis in the late 90s, sorry, 1998. And a lot of housewives and a lot of people handed in their jewelry, gold jewelry, to the central bank in Korea. So you never know. But somehow, for some reason, I don't think the Turks are that. They've been around for a long time. I don't think they're going to be fooled. Of course, unless he forces them to do it, that's a different story. Chill. Currently, the Treasury pegs gold at $42.22. Yeah. Could they repeg it to 10,000 or 50,000 or higher, basically, to cancel the debt? Yeah, that's the statutory price, 42.22. I think it's 42.222, like 4 twos. And the Federal Reserve, they hold the certificates for that gold. And why is that? Well, because in 1933, when they confiscated Americans' gold, Americans had to hand it in to their local Federal Reserve banks. And then the Federal Reserve banks handed it into the Treasury, and the Treasury gave the Federal Reserve banks these certificates. Yeah, I think the statutory price was set in the mid 70s or some. Yeah, I think it was 73 or 74. Yeah, they could always revalue. Well, they might not revalue that price, but all you need is the market to do it, because in 1980, the market revalued. It was a natural reset. Gold went from, $35 10 years before to almost 900. And the Fed's liabilities were over 100% backed by gold without the Treasury or the Fed revaluing that gold. So it doesn't really matter. I think what matters most is what the market does, but it's possible they could do that. It wouldn't write off the debt, but it would make the debt worth a lot less. The problem is, do they still really have that gold in Fort Knox? Who knows? Dilwyn Roberts, do you think gold would rise if there is a war, and how much? This could be a nice answer. Well, we saw on Friday, a lot of people said gold, because I was very surprised. Friday afternoon, and it was late afternoon London. Usually you don't see gold do what it did. It was up over $30. Silver was up, and it was on the back of all the saber rattling, about war with Ukraine. And yeah, I think gold is breaking out. And even if there isn't a war, I think it's moving higher. I think people are starting to realize the central banks are really cornered. But yeah, I think it was Alan Greenspan who said, when things are stable geopolitically around the world, people accept fiat currencies. But when there's a huge war and trouble in the world, people prefer gold. So yeah, I think it could be quite positive for gold. And yeah, and that's not even touching upon all the inflation. So who knows? I can't tell you where we're going to go, but I think people who have real physical gold and silver outside the system should be sleeping quite soundly, I would say, these days. Dr. Brad Pitt says, will gold break out now? If not, my wife will divorce me. Well, it seems to be breaking out, but in the long-term picture seems to be breaking out. Yeah, I think it looks good. As for your marital relationship, you need to sort that out with your wife. Echo, echo. Yeah, false flag is definitely in the cards. And the Americans have been talking about that quite a bit, that Russia could have a false flag. But I would say it would be more the West uh, perpetrating a false flag. Good humor, man. Gold doesn't go up or down. It is the worthless paper currency it is compared to. That's right. I mean, it would be much better to look at the price of the dollar, the price of the dollar in gold. But unfortunately, we all look at the price of gold in dollars. And yeah, it's $1 used to be 1/35 of an ounce. Now $1 is almost 1/1900th of an ounce, and it's going to keep going lower. I agree with you. Echo, echo. Can I ask, would war be good for the USA economy? Surely not. What about Tony Blair's false flags? Uh, Tony Blair's false flags. I mean, Tony Blair was working together with Shrub or Bush Jr. So, no, I don't think war is ever good for any country. It would be good for the, the companies that benefit from war, but no, and it might boost the economy, but in the long term, it's always a bad thing because all wars do is create more and more debt. It creates destruction. It creates misery. I mean, um, maybe not in the US, but in other countries. But look at the Afghanistan war. The Americans were there for 20 years, the trillions of dollars that were wasted. No, it's never good, war. And hopefully there won't be any. But I think the way things have become, the relations between the US, Russia, and China, it doesn't, it's not good. It's not good. Maybe it's a cover for negotiating like a reset of the whole system. Maybe that's what it's about. Lord Humongous says we got US trucker going to DC March 5th. All right. Echo, echo. Thank you for your super chat. War is a racket. That's right, Lord Humongous. But I think one of the reasons as well is that the establishment in the US and in the UK, the people in power, they're under pressure because the whole health thing is waning and they need to find something else to keep the public behind them. And yeah, and I think Biden, his support is very low, and you've got midterms coming up as well. So maybe that's part of the situation, part of the thinking. Neil Moy, will they sell a load of long-term paper gold contracts like they did before? This will denote the end of security agreement in Europe. How will the Fed react to this? Who do you mean by they? And yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, a lot of people were saying on Friday evening that they're gonna come and smack gold on Monday. but I think the move was unusual on Friday. As for long-term paper gold contracts, they're going to have a much more tougher time trading paper gold because people are starting to wake up, not just investors, but sovereign countries. They're buying the real thing. Countries like sovereign countries, they don't buy paper gold, they buy the real thing. So, yeah. Mr. B says, smash the like button. That's, yeah. Follow and subscribe, share far and wide. That would help. We're almost up to 60,000 subscribers. We're up to, I think, 59,200. Alex Skuru, in the UK, they're advertising a Chase credit card. I am assuming it's JP Morgan trying to get into credit card business. Yeah, JP Morgan Chase, they merged some years ago. Yeah, I mean, credit cards. I have a credit card, but uh, I've had it for many years, but I never use it. And I get contacted every year by the credit card company through NatWest saying, oh, you haven't used your card. We're going to cancel it unless you tell us you want to keep it. And I always say, yeah, I want to keep it just in case. But yeah, I mean, credit cards, that's the way the banks make their money. They lend money they don't have at like 18-20%. They borrow it almost for nothing. Alex Flores from Canada says, hi, Billy, I caught the Sunday live. That's good. Yeah, we've got another 30 minutes or so to go, or 23 minutes. Jack B, Putin is the president of the Russian Federation. Yeah, we know that. Lord Humongous Team, Moneconomics. Andrew Pasco, yeah, talking about Powell. Yeah, the Fed is just trying to keep things from imploding. Yeah, they're really hoping that CPI drops in the next year or two. I think they're going to have a very tough time. He's getting more and more uncomfortable in those press conferences, even though a lot of the reporters, they ask him very easy questions, like softball questions, unfortunately. But yeah, he's supposed to be confirmed, I think, on Tuesday in the Senate. And I think it's Occupy the Fed movement on Substack. They've come out with damning evidence that he broke a lot of trading rules. But unfortunately, I don't think the Senate will do anything to block his confirmation, because right now he's chairman pro tempore, because his term ended last week and he hasn't been confirmed yet. Yeah, unfortunately, I think he's going to stay there. The best thing, of course, would be for the Fed not to exist and the Fed. Snowy Skyler, what will World War III look like? I don't know. But I guess it was Einstein who said if there is a World War III, World War IV will be fought with sticks. So Pascal Hoods, credit cards, if repaid before the end of the month, it builds up your credit score. I know that, but I don't like to use credit cards anymore. I just pay everything. And yeah, I don't really care too much about a credit score. I don't have any debt. It could be a problem in the future, but that's the way I look at it. but I do have a credit card. So that means that I do have some kind of credit score. Crypto FETT, you can't taper a Ponzi. Uh, salute and cheers from Queens, New York. I agree with you. I mean, and I'm not like I don't have a crystal ball, but I read a book, and I've talked about this book many times, Fiat Money, Inflation in France by Andrew Dixon White. And in that book, we see that once you start inflating, doing QE and printing money, it's virtually impossible to unwind it unless you want to totally destroy the system. And politicians, they like to err on the side of inflating. So either way, you know, like you said, you can't taper a Ponzi. It's going to go into tilt or hyperinflation. So I agree with you with your comment there. For the disenfranchised, just floating this question, but given huge protests being shut down, would protesting make a run on banks be an alternative worthwhile tactic? Of course. I think a few years ago when they had the yellow vest protests in France, there was a move to take yeah, there was a move once, I think, to take all your money out of the banks, like savings. Yeah, definitely. I mean, stacking gold and silver outside the system. Of course, unfortunately, we need to keep a little bit of fiat currency in the bank to pay our bills and stuff. But if you've got substantial savings, I think it's really counterproductive to keep it in the banks, because you're financing the banks and governments. And yeah, so I agree with you. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of people are struggling these days with the cost of living going up. So it becomes more and more difficult to do that. CDN Liberty, what is your opinion on diversifying your portfolio? Some still advise bonds and general stock markets. Yeah, you know, I don't give advice on this kind of stuff, but I think, you know, the 60-40, they call it, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. I think that will definitely change, and those two numbers will be lower. And I think fund managers and money managers will shift more towards hard assets. It's worked well in the last 40 years, stocks and bonds, but I think we're coming into an era where that's going to be different. And the other thing I would say, investing is not just something you do like in the stock market or the bond market. People need to think about investing in themselves, their families, yeah, in their education, I would say, in their knowledge, and maybe your own business. It doesn't always have to be the stock and bond market. JP Millward says nuclear war will melt our stacks. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's really hopefully not in the cards. That would be what they call mutually assured destruction, a nuclear war. Lily Robbins says homelessness is out of control. I watch new channel where he goes through Google Street Views and posts the homeless encampments he finds sitting in his living room. Yeah, that's what inflation does. The third world or emerging markets, places like Brazil, where I grew up, there's a lot of inequality, and one of the major reasons is that you have inflation. Inflation is theft, basically. You're fooling people. The very wealthy and the people in the know, they know how to protect themselves, and that's what I'm trying to do here. Tell the public how to protect themselves against this, and hopefully, I'll help a few people out there. Dillwin Roberts says Glint card is okay. I bought a car 2 weeks ago, paid in part in gold with Glint. Yeah, oh no, Glint is a good company, I think. They contacted me back in 2018, I think. They're London based. And yes, if you want to open an account with Glint, to have the Glint app, they allow you to basically have a card, a MasterCard, where you can deposit gold or other fiat currencies, not other fiat currencies, but fiat currencies, and you can spend your gold. They keep your gold segregated, allocated account in Switzerland. Some people don't like that, but other people do. I have a Glint card, but I also have, and if you do open a Glint account, use my promo code Mario Glint 79, and yeah, and I also have a referral. Well, it's not a promo code; it's a referral code with Glint, and I have a promo code with Gold Investments. They're a bullion dealer, so they will sell you real, like physical gold and silver. And my promo code with them is Monaco 64, and they'll give you a 0.5% discount when you go through them. They're based in London. Echo says, I was upset with the BOE saying workers should not get pay rises. Yeah, I saw Andrew Bailey, the governor, said people should try not to get too big a pay rise because it's inflationary. Well, it's rubbish, really, because the only reason people want pay rises is because he's destroying the currency. It's his fault, really, because if we had a sound currency and no inflation, people wouldn't need pay rises. So yeah, it's total. It's a deception. It's totally dishonest for him to say that, I would say. And I saw a couple of weeks ago that the CEO of Bank of America, he got a 30% pay rise. So the bankers, they can get big bonuses and big pay rises, and that's not inflationary. But when an average worker wants a pay rise, that's inflationary. It's just laying the blame for their own stealing, because inflation, as I said, is theft. Yeah, they're trying to say, oh, the workers are creating inflation, and that's total rubbish. War equals inflation, of course. Yeah, there's always, especially after the war, because during war people governments spend a lot of money, and they destroy a lot of things, and there's usually inflation. But the last 2 years have been akin to having a war, with all the lockdowns and all the stimulus, fiscal and monetary. It's been like a war. So if we have a real kinetic war now, it's going to be even worse, the inflation. But they're going to blame it all on COVID. They're going to blame it on the war. They said it was necessary. So yeah. Gordon Hamilton's Boris Johnson says he can't get by on 150,000 a year. Well, I guess he's a guy who doesn't even know how many children he has. So is it 7, 8, or 9? So I'm not surprised. And that's the kind of guy who's running 12, he ran 15% budget deficits for our country. He's running 12% now. So is it any surprise that the country is in the condition that it's in when we have a prime minister who can't even run his own household, doesn't even know how many children he has, or at least the public doesn't know. Jay says Biden is helping with the crack up boom. Yeah, the crack up boom is kind of like a hyperinflation, and there's a lot of ingredients to a crack up boom and hyperinflation. There's a loss of confidence in government, loss of confidence in and it's not just left or right, it's the whole fabric of government, the whole state. There's a loss of confidence in the bankers, in the central bank, loss of confidence in the currency. And I would say this is more true than ever right now, with all the protests, all the inflation, all the debt. Yeah, there's a lot of debt as well. In a crack up boom, one of the reasons for the crack up boom is that governments get in debt, so much in debt that they monetize the debt, and it makes the currency worthless. So I think we're very close to the acceleration of the crack up boom. Yes, they're blaming supply chain shortages and everything, but they'll never really admit to it, or they probably don't even understand it, that we are in the beginnings of a crack up boom. Richard Martin says, aloha, Mario. I just arrived. Can we start over? Unfortunately, we're going to be finishing in about 8 minutes. But, you can listen to the beginning. It will be recorded on the channel later on. Silver Highwayman, Yankee stacking the videos that Turning Point USA have on YouTube made me aware of the influence the Marxists have in universities. I think they do. They've infiltrated the academia for decades, everywhere in the US, in the UK, in Europe. They're very left-leaning academia. Over here says New York City subway system has become one big homeless shelter. That's a shame. That's not good. JP Millward says, no, Mario, stay. Well, it's almost 10 o'clock. And NATO, yes. Yeah, I think that's one of the problems with the Russians and Putin, is that when the Soviet Union collapsed, the deal, and that was one of the mistakes Gorbachev made. He didn't get something on paper signed by Bush and James Baker, because they promised not to go into East Germany, the NATO troops. But it was only a gentleman's agreement. And NATO shouldn't even exist anymore, really, to be honest. Why does the United States and Great Britain need to have troops in Germany? The war ended almost 80 years ago. So, and I think that's one of the problems, because NATO, the wars, and the opposite of NATO used to be the Warsaw Pact, and Russia took all its troops out of Eastern Europe. And the Americans, instead of maybe just staying in Western Europe, they moved NATO into Eastern Europe. And I think that's one of the problems Putin has. And he doesn't want to see Ukraine becoming part of NATO. No, they didn't have a treaty with Gorbachev. It was just like they gave him an assurance, a verbal assurance, but they broke that promise. But Gorbachev should have made him sign something on paper. He didn't. George Cranston, I agree with your comment there about NATO. I recommend people watch Ole Damagard. He talks a lot about that. Google Ole Damagard. Yeah. Lord Humongous says your government loves you. Yeah. And I'm a Martian. Susan P. Faust, was illegal for NATO to bomb Serbia. I agree. You know, the whole Libya affair in, was it 2011? They overthrew Gaddafi. That was a NATO operation as well. That I would say that was illegal too. Yankee Stacking is here. Oh, nice to see you. I enjoy watching your channel as well, Yankee Stacking. Thank you for your super chat. Would love to go live with you. Monaco64, really admire your channel and love your wealth of insights. Keep it up, my brother. Across. Yeah, it would be nice to come on your channel. Yes. How can you get in contact with me? Because I don't like to give my email. I'll go on your channel and see if there's a contact button. And yeah, I'd love to come on your channel. We got a couple of minutes left. JP Millward, I thought you came from Brazil. Yeah, I do. That's where the nuts come from, Brazil. That's what my wife jokes about. She's English. She says it's where the nuts come from. Brazil nuts. Normal Norm says, Mario, don't. Yankee is a spy. Yeah, right. Lord Humongous says, Yankee needs to send me a gold coin for an interview. Is that like a 1933 double eagle, Lord Humongous? Yeah, chill. I know Yankee Stacking is legit. I watch that channel. So there you go. Sandy Anderson, how will supermarkets and shops do during a hyperinflation? Well, you know, I actually remember in Brazil in the late 80s, we had like a currency collapse. Basically, you have a lot of shortages, just like we're having now. So there you go. There'll be a lot of empty shelves, but usually it doesn't last that long. It doesn't last for years. It will last for a few months, and then things will, that's the good thing about it. It doesn't last forever. Yes, and a dinosaur, they have a lot of coffee in Brazil. I like that Frank Sinatra song. That's a good one. Uh, Fernando F20. What about HSBC? Well, they're one of the too big to fail banks, so I wouldn't keep too many funds with them. Only the necessary. Alex Scuro, do you ever consider working for JP Morgan in your younger years? Um, well, when I worked in the city as a futures broker, I was contacted by like a headhunter, they call, and I went for an interview with JP Morgan, but it didn't really work out. JP Morgan. Yeah, so there you go. Chill says he's seen a lot of shrinkflation. Yeah, there's a lot of shrinkflation, but I think it's coming to an end, because if they keep shrinking things more, they will disappear. So that's why I think prices are going to start rising quite substantially. Richard Martin, yeah, the food prices, grocery prices in the UK, they have been quite fairly under control. Rents have gone up, even though I don't rent, but I'm aware that it's gone up. Yeah, and the electricity and utility prices are going to go up a lot from April, so it's not good either here, and at restaurants as well. Like you can tell, like a few years ago, if you ordered a starter, it used to be around £5 to £7, and then the main meal used to be £10 to £12, a main dish. Now, like all starters are like £10 to £12, and the main dish is like 15 to 30. So restaurant prices are going up. So there you go. I'll answer one more question. Shannon Wright, what's your thoughts on credit unions as opposed to banks? Yeah, the credit unions, they act more responsibly, but you need to basically make sure that the credit union doesn't, because a lot of times these credit unions or banks, they will keep money with other banks, like the big banks. So you got to make sure that where they keep the funds as well, it's not as clear cut. So anyway, it's time for me to go. And I wish you all a great rest of the weekend, or a great week if you're in the Far East already, or in New Zealand and Australia. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. And thanks for being here for the live stream. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.